not fearing failure. I think that's what it was. And kind of the mindset that surrounds that. To be okay with failing at something. And not being afraid to try, you know? It takes time to be good at something. And from my own experiences, what I like to reference is like, you know, so I'm a musician. I play the drums. I've been playing the drums for about 18 years now. And through that time, I've learned a lot. You're never gonna be perfect at anything. When I first got into music, I mean, I didn't necessarily care about being perfect, right? I was just having fun playing the drums. One thing that tends to happen, right, is like, you know, you crave knowledge, you get better at what you do, and you get better at getting better. Things start to fall in place, you know, what you once thought was impossible can become possible. Like, for me in my scenario, I went to school to study music, and I remember going in and thinking I was like hot shit, you know what I mean? And there's always going to be someone better than you. That's one thing to think about. There's always going to be someone better than you. So if you go in with the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to be the shit, I'm going to be like the best, right? You may think you're the fucking best, but there's always someone who's going to cut you down a notch, you know? And for me, a lot of it was like my instructors. And for instance, they would, you know, as any good teacher would or should do, my instructors at that time were constantly trying to put me outside of my comfort zone. So at that time I was like, ah, fuck it, like I just want to play metal, you know? Oh, I can't do this, or this is too hard, or whatever it is, because I'm learning new things. And part of it was like artist ego of just being like, well, why do I need to learn this crap, you know? Like, what's the point in idolizing all these like great jazz guys and all this stuff? And you know, I used to be really like thick-headed about stuff like that, because in my mind at that time I'm thinking like, okay, like, you know, we idolize Beethoven, we idolize, you know, Mozart and, you know, Chopin and like all of these great classical artists. And then in the jazz world, it's like Coltrane and Miles Davis, and, you know, we have all of these greats that we idolize. And my issue at the time, because I was just too blind to kind of figure it out or notice it, was really that like, this was how I would think of it. I'm like, why are we idolizing these guys? Because at their time, when they were doing what they were doing, they were defying the laws of what we knew about music, and they were pretty rebellious, you know what I mean? The reason they gained so much fame and traction was because they were doing things that other people weren't, and there was a fair amount of people that didn't like or didn't agree with their approaches to music. And this is just what I believe when it comes to an art or a craft. The ones who are considered masters of their craft, they developed that style and that way of, you know, being, you know, in a really grassroots kind of way. If you had Buddy Rich trying to be Gene Krupa, you wouldn't have Buddy Rich, you know? If you have Picasso trying to be like Van Gogh, then you'd have 2 Picassos or 2 Van Goghs, you know? There has to be like a distinction, and this was something that was really difficult for me to wrap my head around, because I was so fed, or like, you know, I was so zoned in on, well, this is how I play, this is how I like to do it. And that's kind of the artist ego that I'm talking about. Just because it's how you would approach it doesn't necessarily mean that's how the music should be played. Now, there's a way to go about it where you can still embellish musical parts, and put your own spin on it, put your own kind of stamp on it. But if you're playing with a group of, you know, with a bunch of seasoned jazz musicians, and let's say you're playing like all blues or something like that, and you don't play it, you know, in a way that serves the music, then you're in a sense, you are walking all over it, you know what I mean? And I've literally had a saxophonist get extremely pissed off at me one time because I'm like, I forget what song we were playing, but we're playing, I'm like chopping it up, you know? It might as well have been like a fucking, you know, 6-minute drum solo with how many like notes I was adding, just completely overplaying the piece. And you know, I was straight up overplaying, even like over his solo, and he stops playing, he looks at me, and he's kind of an older cat, he looks at me and he's like, look man, if you're gonna walk all over the song, then like what are any of us doing here, you know? If you're just gonna like take charge and it basically becomes the you show, you know what I mean? And he stormed off. He was pretty pissed. But for me at that time, it really did take someone to like tell me like, hey dude, like fucking reel it in, like it's not your fucking show, like we're a team here, like why are you trying to overplay and step on everyone's toes? And so that was like one of the first times where I wasn't like getting praise, you know? I was actually being scalded for, in my mind, I thought I was being like musically expressive and, you know, kind of showing off what I could do. But that's the problem, is I was showing off, you know? I wasn't serving the music. I wasn't uplifting my bandmates, which as a drummer, that's honestly your primary role, you know? If you're in the rhythm section, if you play drums, bass, or piano, or guitar, and you're playing in like a big band setting, that is your role, you know? Your job is to make the horns sound good. Your job is to make, you know, the singer sound good. And don't even get me started on like working with vocalists. Like, if you're working with a vocalist, unless they explicitly tell you like, yeah dude, chop it up, I want you to fucking really play the shit out of those drums, if they're not fucking straight up telling you that, your whole job is to just sit back and be in the pocket and uplift them. There's so much to learn, there's so much nuance within the art, within the craft. There's a lot of crossover and transcendence and concepts that can be applied to many things, if not all things in life. And that's one of those cool things that I think you gain from being interested in a hobby or an art form, you know, that you really care about. But what I'm going to touch on is the failing aspect. I was so afraid of failing that it kept me from doing things altogether. It flat out, like, I would just be like, well, why would I want to do that if I'm not good at it and I'm going to fail at it? And this is definitely a concept that I've been able to carry throughout all of my life, you know? And nowadays I see it most with my day job, you know? There's always someone more seasoned than you that has a better way to do something. Yeah, sure, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but sometimes this is the fucking way, you know what I mean? And it takes experience like that to open your mind up and to help you lose that fear of failure. And I swear, man, that's like one of the best things that has ever happened to my ego, to my mentality. Because now, like, at this point in my life, it's like, I don't care if I suck at something. I obviously have that drive to get better. I like to be good at the things that I like to do, you know? The fear of failure, I guess, can be good and bad, because what else would be driving you to be better at something, you know? But it takes being really humble and learning from your mistakes and the true passion of wanting to be great at something. It all stems from that initial reaction of like, oh, I'm not good at this. Oh shit, you know? Well, how can we change that? What can we do about that? And that kind of brings me to a phrase that I really, really like. And I used to have a coach that used to say this all the time when we'd be like running gassers and, you know, oh my God. But basically the phrase is, you know, learn to live in the land of the uncomfortable. Acclimate yourself there. Set up home there. The more you can learn to love being in that kind of environment where you're, you know, you might be stressed out, you might be panicking, you might be fucking whatever. Shit could be going on. You'll find that that's where you make the most progress. Find your weaknesses, target them, fixate on them, and attack them. You know what I mean? You're never gonna get better by doing the same shit you've always done. When I was first doing jazz studies, that was a big thing for me. It was, you know, it was uncharted waters for me. Things were difficult. There was so much to learn. I had to adapt and improve. And the only way I was able to do that was to just accept that I suck at it and try to be better, you know? And that kind of brings it back around to like, why do we idolize these guys, these legends? What's so legendary about them? Well, they set the standard, you know? And you have to learn how to walk before you can run. And this was the thing that all of my instructors were trying to instill in me. Like, sure, I could play. I had the chops, I had the feel, all that stuff. But like, if you don't know why you're doing these things, then you're not learning and you're not improving. So you target your weaknesses and you turn them into strengths. Before you know it, you're like, oh, why did I ever trip on this? Why was this ever a difficult thing for me? It's because it's not that you can't do it. It's that you're not allowing yourself to do it, you know? You're not allowing yourself to try and fail and try and fail. And everyone learns differently and learns at a different pace. Someone like me, I'm a trial by fire kind of person. Like, I'm not gonna fully understand something until I get my feet wet with it and I fucking, you know, figure out the bells and whistles. And the only way I do that is trying things out. Oh, let me try this. Oh, this didn't work. Oh shit, okay. Yeah, don't do that. And then you stumble upon something where you're like, oh, that was cool. All right. Yeah, maybe try that again. And if you can replicate something, the more you can replicate it, you can internalize it. You're adding another tool to your tool belt. And familiarity breeds fluency, you know? If you do something spontaneous and you're able to capture that moment, replicate it, keep on doing it, keep on replicating it until it becomes ingrained in you, and then all of a sudden it's an integral part of your style and your flow.